Hello, everyone. Welcome aboard to the Concord University Athletic Alumni at Work interview series. This is episode number 6. My name is Wes McKinney, and today we catch up with 2019 Concord Hall of Fame inductee and current UVa Wise women's basketball head coach, Jamie Cluesman. Jamie is the program record holder here at Concord for career assists and career steals. Jamie, so great you could stop by for some time.
I appreciate it. Great to be here.
Yeah, looking forward to this. I think this is going to be exciting. But before we really dig in here, give us an update on kind of how things are going for you guys at UVA Wise, despite obviously the pandemic, as you guys get ready for season number 3 there.
Yeah, I mean, we're, in the same boat that most people are in. We're just trying to be adaptive and team players and doing what's asked of us. I was sitting down with my assistant coaches and talking about how, it's hard to plan practice when we can't play defense right now because we are very limited on what we can and can't do in our practices. But on the flip side of things, like, there are other teams out there that can't even practice right now. So we're just very thankful that we're even able to, touch a ball, get on the court. But, it's just like anything else. The rules are changing every single day. So it's just, being knowledgeable about where our current state is with our governor and the policies and the protocols. And then, with UVA Wise Athletics. So, we're in constant contact with our athletic director, and our athletic trainers have been amazing through this whole thing. They're part of the reason that we're able to do what we're doing. The policies they have put in place have been, top notch. They're working extremely long hours right now. So without them, none of this would be possible. Give a shout out to Dana. She's a Concord grad as well. So she works closely with us. So we're very appreciative of her and, all of her hard work to help make this happen.
Yeah, it is kind of Concord West there at UVA Wise. Of course, your assistant, Jacqueline Kessner, is a Concord grad. Dana got her master's here. And, of course, Casey Gerber, one of her assistants in the athletic training program. But, Jamie, you mentioned the practice style. You guys can't play defense right now. What are some other challenges you guys have had to face? I know recruiting this summer looked a whole lot different. Along with that, some other things?
Oh, yeah, recruiting's definitely been different. Hard in certain aspects. Other aspects, it's helped us save money on our budget. So there are pros and cons to it all. But, we were able to watch some of these events online, just like anything else. The quality of the videos, sometimes it's great, sometimes it's poor. Sometimes the person behind the camera forgets to, turn the camera or even start the camera. So, it's just, one of those things where you just adapt and do the best that you can. But I feel like the recruits that we have been talking with, I think things have went very well. They're in a tough spot as well because they don't know, like, what their high school season's even going to look like, if they're going to get to have a season and all of this. So, they're in a tough spot as well. We're just trying to be understanding, try not to be too pushy about, time constraints and things like that. So it's a tough boat for everyone. We're just trying to get in the same boat as everyone and, be understanding through it all.
Yeah, sure. Let's jump into some Concord stuff here, and then we'll circle back around and get your perspective on UVA Wise women's hoops. But you grew up not too far from UVA Wise, about an hour outside in Jonesville, Virginia. When you were being recruited by Coach Osborne, what other schools were in the mix? What set Concord apart? Just kind of take me through that whole process.
Yeah, so a lot of the local schools, UVA Wise, Milligan, Emory and Henry, Virginia Intermont before they closed, were the schools that were probably on me the most. I just felt like, and I'm not knocking Division III, NAI, or anything like that. I just felt like the time commitment that I had put into the game and, the time and money my parents had put into the game, that I felt like I could compete at a little bit higher level. I did have some Division I interest, but, I'm a competitor. I'm not saying that I wasn't willing to work for playing time at a Division I program, but I really just liked what Coach Oz had to offer. I loved, his coaching philosophy, even though we butted heads a few times as far as, like, the pace of the game, what I wanted to play compared to what he wanted to play. But I feel like we kind of met in the middle and things worked out pretty well for us. But, you know, he's a very blunt guy. He shoots it to you straight. He's not going to sugarcoat anything. And honestly, I respected that. And, you know, it was far enough away from home, but still close enough so my parents could come to every game. If I needed to go home for a weekend, you know, it was an easy drive. I love the campus. You know, when I was on campus, it felt like a family atmosphere, and, you know, family is very, very important to me. Another reason I came back to UVa Wise is to be close to my family. So that's always been, you know, my top priority. So I had to take that into consideration. And then also I knew two guys that were on the football team, Robert Sabatini and Joey Carroll. So there were some familiar faces on campus already that I already had ties to because they were two of my sister's, like, really good friends. Robert was actually my neighbor, grew up, you know, playing football,
Sure.
basketball, you name it. You know, we spent almost every day of our childhood together. So just having that familiar face and a good friend there definitely helped in the process as well.
Yeah, we're getting some good name drops already with Rob and with Joey, so I like where this is going. But Jamie, let's talk about you mentioned you liked his Coach Osborne's style as you were being recruited. He'd been here like 4 years at that point, back in 2003 when you were officially on the roster there in 2003. Concord had some lean years. He was trying to get things set in motion. So what was the vision there your freshman year, and then obviously as you guys really started having some great success?
Yeah, I mean, you could just see the program building from when he took over. And, you know, it's, you know, looking at personnel, you know, that's something that I always look at. Even coaching now, it's, you know, personnel is like the biggest key factor in a game. So, you know, I really evaluated the players he had returning that would be there for my freshman year. You know, Renee Gagnier, who was, you know, conference player of the year her junior year. I'm like, okay, I'm going to play with a stud senior in the paint. Coach Oz wants to go inside first. I'm a true point guard, so, you know, I'm always looking to pass before I shoot. So just having someone who was so dominant on the inside, to have that presence was something I could see myself, like, being successful in. I love the motion offense that he incorporated because it allows people the freedom to play to their strengths. Defensively, he was primarily man-to-man. You know, I love being aggressive. So the man-to-man defense obviously was another, like, key factor in my decision. You know, it's just his style of play fit how I wanted to play. But again, the personnel, you know, on my visit, I got to, you know, meet multiple players, got to watch them play multiple games, and, you know, it's one of those things that I guess it's just, then I didn't know I was going to be a college coach, but always study the game. So, you know, I was constantly studying, following up. You know, back then it was hard to find stats and everything else. So It was one of those things where you had to really dig for information like that because the internet wasn't what it is today. And, you know, we didn't have, you know, SIDs who, you know, would put stats up immediately after the game and things like that. So it was a little bit harder to do some homework, but, you know, it was important to me. So it was something that I took pride in and making sure it was going to be the right fit.
You come in, you make an impact right away, Jamie. You play in 28 games, start all but 10 of those games, 5.8 points, 3.4 rebounds, 3.5 assists. And to kind of put that in perspective, you had almost 100 points, 100 rebounds, and 100 assists. And this past year in the MEC, I think there's only like 5 or 6 players that did that in the entire league. You almost do that as a freshman. The team has a 14-15 record overall. But what I wanted to ask was, how was the college game different from high school, and what adjustments did you have to make?
Just the speed of the game alone. You know, I told you I wanted to play fast, but me playing fast in high school is totally different than playing fast in college. You know, when I first got to college, I was only 17 years old. So, you know, I'm the youngest player with the exception of my roommate at the time, you know, on the roster, probably in the conference, you know. So it was a little bit of, like, maturing a little bit as well. But I would say the speed of the game and just incorporating the shot clock. You know, not having a shot clock is a huge factor, but I thought Coach Oz did a great job of always implementing that in practice from the get-go. So it was something that, you know, is over, the course of 2 weeks was pretty easy to incorporate into, your mindset then because, he always stressed it's important to know score, time, and possession. So constantly you had to know the game clock along with the shot clock. So, that was a big adjustment too because now you're adding another factor into it. But I would say just the speed of the game and the shot clock. But the physicality, I'm a physical player. I'd foul out in the first 5 minutes of the game today if I were to play this style. But, it's just like anything else. You just have to adapt if you want to compete and make an impact on your team. So, I was willing to do whatever my team needed and fill those roles that were missing from the previous year. So just try to do what was asked of me and put my teammates in great position.
You mentioned Renee was here your freshman year. She was coming off a Conference Player of the Year award. But Jamie, this team had obviously gotten to the 500 mark. You guys were learning how to win. And this group of players you played with for your 5 years here at Concord, along with Renee obviously being here, Jessica Ferguson, Sam Nestor, Hall of Famer, Lindsay Repass, ultra aggressive in that pressure. And I should go back, Jessica Ferguson, 900-point scorer, Amber Showalter, Hall of Famer, Sherry Walker, sharpshooter on the outside, Cassidy Smith could do a little bit of everything for you guys. 3 Hall of Famers on that team. How did you guys really start to gel with one another there and you guys find that success that you would have later on?
I think it starts, off the court. Like, we were a really, really close-knit group. Anything that one person did, we all did. And I think that translates to on-court when it comes to practice, games, shoot-arounds, whatever it is. And I think we all had the same goals in mind. And it wasn't all about scoring for any of us. You said there's 3 Hall of Famers on there, but if you look at our games and how we contributed to the game and to our teams at that time, like, we were all different players. So I feel like everyone knew what their role was and was able to fill those. And we didn't try to do things that we weren't capable of doing. Like, I wasn't a strong 3-point shooter, so, I wasn't going to take 8 threes a game,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to leave that up to Sherry Walker, Lindsay Repass, Becca Flanagan, players like that. So, I wasn't out there trying to do things that was going to, like, not benefit my team. And, we didn't have Sam Nestor out there shooting threes. Like, her go-to move, get on the left block, finish with your left hand. Like, we knew to get her into that position so she could be successful, in return help us win games. So we didn't have big egos, and I think that helped with our success. So if you can put egos aside and do what's in the best interest of the team and play into your strengths, then the wins will come with that.
You guys start to really set things in motion there. Another season around 500 your sophomore year, but then you being the fiery competitor you are, how tough was it to set out that third year, that 2005-6 season, and watch everyone play, knowing that you really couldn't do anything on the court to help out, but how was you able to maybe help people off the court?
Yeah, I mean, it was an awful time. It's one of those things where any position to fill is hard. I feel like being a point guard, that's a really tough position to be, the floor general, to be on the same page as the head coach, because I feel like point guards are an extension of the head coach. And the point guards that were playing, behind me and pushing me in practice every single day were younger. So, the experience just wasn't there, and I feel like they were kind of thrown to the wolves early on. But, over time and, with Sherry out there trying to run the point, sometimes I knew it was frustrating. So I would just try to be a coach on the sideline and, during timeouts or in practice, if I would see something, I would just try to relay that information to them in a way that was, positive, because I knew the stress that they were under. It was all new to them. So it's kind of one of those things, you got to be patient, and be as positive as you can throughout it. But that year off, honestly, like, I felt like my knowledge of the game expanded so much because I was able to, I had no choice but to sit on the sidelines and, watch every single practice, every drill. Still when we would watch film on other teams, you go in with the same mindset to study the game there, but it's one of those things where I need to retain as much information from that film session as I can, because not only am I, preparing to play my position on the court, but I need to know every single aspect, every single tendency of every single player on the opposing team, because like I said, we didn't have like a full-time assistant coach. We had a graduate assistant at the time, and there's a lot that goes into it. So if I could just be an extension of them and help as much as I could, then I just try to do the best that I could. But like I said, it was a really tough year. It was mentally and physically exhausting during that time, but my teammates stepped up great. They still competed. Games that we lost, we were still very, very competitive throughout those games. So, it's a testament to them to overcome and adapt, with players that were healthy and players that were injured.
Concord goes 14-14, 8-10 in the conference, the season that you have to miss, but then you guys come back and you guys find a lot of success here. 21-9 in 2006, 2007, first 20-win season in program history. You guys make the semifinals of the conference tournament. It was only the second time in program history that had been achieved. So, Jamie, kind of going back to 2003, was this kind of the fruits of your guys' labor finally being paid off here with that 21-win season there in 2007?
I think so. And, when you are at that age, it's kind of hard to see the bigger picture, or, to see what we're doing now is only setting us up for maybe 2 to 3 years down the road. But, looking back on it, I feel like Coach Osborne, he knew what he was doing. He was getting the right pieces in, recruiting-wise, to fill, certain voids, or, to improve in certain positions. So, I feel like, and Coach Oz may disagree with me, but, majority of the time we were very competitive in practice. Just like any other program, you're going to have bad days, but I feel like collectively he was probably not, at the time, probably wasn't completely pleased with our effort and things, but now looking back on it, I would say that, we tried to pour into it as much as we could and give back to how much he had invested into the program and us as individuals, not only as players on the court, but off the court as well.
I often think, Jamie, it's harder to maybe follow up a good season with another solid season. You guys, you're in a different place. Obviously you guys are now the hunted, but your senior season, 20-9, you guys were actually nationally ranked to start the season. You guys were 18th to start that year, nationally ranked. What was kind of the mood of the team during that entire season, knowing the success you guys had and then kind of having that, target on your back, and you guys start 10-2 though?
Yeah, I think we were excited about the season. We knew that we were going to be one of the top teams in the conference. At the time, we went off of power rankings, so I feel like sometimes the way the conference was divided, a lot of times we didn't get the points that I felt like we deserved for beating some of the teams that were, on our side of the conference, when you have other teams who are competing with, the top half of the conference multiple times throughout the season. But, that wasn't anything that we could control. So we had a few games that, we didn't hold up our end of the deal, and we let a few games slip through the cracks. So, it's all on us that we didn't necessarily finish the season how we should have or how we expected to. So, you live and you learn, and, there are some regrets there. And now I just try to relay those things to my players now, and, try to just live through certain moments to teach them to not take advantage of certain opportunities. So, it was a fun year for sure. Definitely some pressure, but, sometimes as a competitor, I like the pressure. It just adds to the experience. So, like I said, we let a few games slip through the cracks that we definitely should have won that hurt us in the end, but it happens. It's part of sports.
Let's kind of step away from the basketball court here, and I'm interested to hear this side of it. I mentioned that the talent on those teams during your time here, but I had the privilege to meet some of the girls you played with back like 2013 or 14 when you guys had the alumni game here, and a lot of personalities on those teams. So any good stories that are you could share with us from the 2006-7 season or 2007-2008 season?
Off the court, I had a couple teammates that always kept you on your toes. They wouldn't care if I called them out, but Sherry Walker and Amber Showalter.
I kind of thought you might say that.
Yeah, definitely two of the most rambunctious ones, but all in good fun. Never really got into big trouble. I know Amber Showalter had to clean the vans one time because she broke curfew, but, it's one of those things where it didn't happen again. But, those all great teammates across the board. And like I said earlier, we were just a very, very close-knit group. And, I'd tell everyone every single day I would go back in a heartbeat to spend another year with those people. So it's definitely the best times of my life and a lot of good experiences, some bad, but, the good definitely outweigh the bad. So the campus in itself is just, a family atmosphere, and everybody's very welcoming. So, it's one of those things where, we're told to never have any negative recruiting, and I know I've been up against Concord and a lot of our recruits, and I hype Concord up just as much as I hype UVa Wise because of how much that school gave me and the experiences I had from it. So it's one of those things where I'll always be a mountain lion. I'm always going to be supportive, even, if we play each other. Yeah, I want to win, but, I'm hoping for success on their end too. So it's definitely a tough battle when we go head-to-head.
Yeah, I'm sure, Jamie. And I wanted to just talk about a couple more things on the court here. Your final 5 games, or I should say the final 4 games of the regular season of your senior year, plus the first-round tournament game against Aldous and Broadus, you go for 69 assists, and I think there's only something like maybe 10 turnovers in those 5 games, on your way to 211 assists as a senior. And during that stretch of 5 games, you also set the single-game record here at Concord in assists. You have 19 assists on your senior night against Bluefield State. And you talked about how you were a pure point guard and you just wanted to run the show. Everyone else could score around you. You'd find a way to get a few points here and there. But, was that kind of a time whenever you realized that, hey, I'm doing exactly what I want to do here. I'm helping this team win, and I'm not even scoring the ball that much?
Absolutely. I'm, like I said, always a pass-first point guard. But, that if you have players on your team who can score the ball as well as my teammates could score, it made my job a little bit easier. I think I played, I was there 5 years, my 4 playing years. I think I played with 4 1,000-point scorers, maybe 5. I can't even remember now. But, when you have people who can score the ball at will, it's, I have to know who to get the ball to, when to get it to them, and make sure they're in the right position to score. So, trying to get them to, play in their strengths. Like Sam Nestor, like I said, left block, left block, left block. We got to get her the ball there. So, it was always in my mind. Sherry Walker, very strong shooter from the left wing. So it's like anytime they're in that vicinity, I'm getting them the ball because I know it's going to give our team a good chance to, put points on the board. But, it was just very fun to play with that group. We play with a lot of emotion, and, we played on each other's emotions. Like, Amber Showalter was our biggest hype man. Mm-hmm. On the court, off the court. If she was in foul trouble, she was the biggest hype man on the bench. So, it's one of those things when you see one of your teammates literally sacrificing their body, that just makes you want to be that much better. So for me to I didn't know that stat line at all. But, like I said, it's just I had a great group of teammates around me, so it made my job easy.
You finish here at Concord, as I mentioned, the all-time assist leader, 655 assists, 277 steals, is also the program's top mark, two-time All-Conference Second Team in 2007-2008, All-Tournament Team in the West Virginia Conference in 2007. That ultimately leads you to being inducted into the Concord Hall of Fame last October. Now, Jamie, we're going to look at the coaching side of Jamie Cluesman here. When did it become apparent that you wanted to enter the coaching ranks? I know you talked about that season you had to set out. You watched a lot of film, saw the game from a different perspective. Was that maybe kind of when you thought you might want to go into coaching, or did it come later?
Yeah, I think that's when it really sparked my interest. My undergrad was in athletic training, so I thought that's how I would stay tied to sports because, I can't imagine my life without sports. But then, when we started getting the graduate assistants, and, I think everything happens for a reason. So when I did get hurt that year, it kind of allowed the process to happen where Kate Glusko would be finishing up her second year when I would be graduating. So that position was going to become available. And I was just fortunate enough that Coach Osborne, trusted me to fill that position and just continue to learn under him. Yes, I knew I always wanted to stay tied to sports. I just didn't know in which area, but sitting out that year definitely, I think, opened my eyes to the opportunity of maybe becoming a coach. So, I was able to learn under a lot of great people, and, that in itself sparked my interest because of the hard work and the time commitment and just the small details that went into it. Was very eye-opening to me as well, but felt like I could fill that role very well. So it was just, I wanted to stay competitive.
You was with Coach Osborne here at Concord from 2008 through the 2013-14 season. Obviously, he's a great teacher of the game. He's a great teacher in life lessons. So, what are some things you learned under him as a coach, as opposed to a player that you still carry with you to this day?
Just kind of like how you treat people off the court, because I think a lot of people get the bad idea when they see Coach Osborne coach. They think he's a terrible guy just because of how passionate and animated he is on the sideline. But, as soon as he stepped off that court, he's like a big teddy bear. He's going to do anything he can to help you in whatever capacity that may be. So it's kind of like separating, on-court stuff with off-court stuff. But, the X's and O's, obviously I learned a lot from him, and I still implement a lot of things that we ran when I was a player there or when I coached there. I'll be honest with you, I put in a sideline out of bounds today, Pioneer. So I'm going to run that with my team this year. So I know Kenny will get a kick out of that. But, it's coaching is, yes, a lot of X's and O's, but it's the stuff off the court that a lot of people don't consider when it comes to coaching. And I feel like he did a great job of always making sure I was involved in things off the court just as much as preparing for practice, scouting, recruiting, and all of that. So that in itself, I think, helped me through the whole process of transitioning from a graduate assistant to an assistant coach and then eventually to a head coach. So I can't necessarily pinpoint specific things, but there's always things as a head coach that no one can prepare you for. It's kind of one of those things you just have to learn on the fly. And but he's someone I always will call and get his advice on, even if it's something minor or something big. He's always my first phone call. So he'll always be, that mentor to me, even when he retires and goes on about his business. But he has a lot of time in this career, has been through a lot of different types of teams, so he's dealt with a lot of different situations. So he's definitely a good resource for me.
You leave Concord after that 13-14 season. As I mentioned, you go to Shepherd to be an assistant under Jenna Eckleberry, who I'm sure you had a lot of battles with whenever she played for Fairmont State back there in the mid-2000s. And you and Jenna combined to just do a complete 180 with that Shepherd team. The 2013-14 season, I think they won 5 or 6 games, something like that. It was definitely single digits. Your guys' first year there, you guys make the NCAA tournament. How did you guys able to just basically transcend that whole thing and get that thing going in the right direction?
General obviously was a point guard too. A lot of people say point guards have very good basketball minds, but I think it was more us going in there and just showing the players that we cared about them as individuals before basketball players. And that group really bought into literally everything that we asked them to do. They would run through brick walls for us without questioning. If we told someone to go stand on their head in the corner, they would go do that. It's just one of those things where they knew that they had very talented players on the team. And it was just putting them in the right positions to succeed. But the biggest thing was just believing in them, just being super positive with them. After a season like that, it's tough to come back mentally the following year. So I think we just poured into them off the court just as much as we did on the court. And like I said earlier, when I was talking about my teammates, we were very close-knit. That group is very, very close as well. So it was just one of those things where if you care about the person sitting next to you more than you care about your own success, then everything's going to take care of itself. So that's what we try to, get across to them. And they, like I said, they fully bought in. And, they're just – we had some very big competitors on that team. And, they, like I said, played into their roles and, just trusted the process, because going into a program or being a player with a new coach, it's hard on anyone, no matter if you had a good season or a bad season. The unknown is still there. So for them to, just welcome us in the way they did, I think that translated to the wins.
Yeah, let's talk about some of those players you had at Shepherd. Obviously, Shepherd's all-time leading scorer, Morgan Arden, played for the Rams whenever you was there. And forgive me, the point guard you guys had at Shepherd, the 4-year starter, I just blanked on her name.
We had Kara Mason.
Kara Mason, yes, that's exactly what I'm trying to think of. So, yeah, you guys had some good guards, and obviously a lot of college basketball coaches will tell you that when you have good guards, you have a chance. And you talked about you guys just pouring into those players. So how easy was it, with players like Morgan and Kara to, really keep that thing going there at Shepherd?
Well, those two players are two of the biggest competitors that I know. So they were willing to sacrifice anything for the team to win. Different players for sure. Kara, is just a fierce competitor. She's aggressive. She's going to get to the rim, but can also step back and knock down the outside shot. Morgan is one of the best scorers I've ever seen play the game. Even when I played and through my coaching years, she's automatic. I think she hit more game winners in one season than I can think of any player hitting in their career. Like, she just was very, very dedicated to perfecting her craft. But, very unselfish too. You look at those two players, a lot of times they were up there in assist as well. So they either led us in scoring or, had quite a few assists. So they also, extension of Coach Eckleberry on the court, and we knew that we could put our trust into them to make sure that their teammates were in the right positions. They knew exactly what the offensive plan was and the defensive plan. They were just very, very smart players. So having those two and then, putting specific players around them, you're going to succeed. So they're very trustworthy players and very, very competitive.
You spent 4 years at Shepherd with Coach Eckleberry there. You guys have a lot of success, but then the spring of 2018, the head coaching job comes open at UVa Wise, a place that you're obviously very familiar with. So what was the process like to, get back to UVA Wise and then just kind of take me through that whole transition, if you could?
Yeah, I'm coming back home, so I was very excited about that. Like I said earlier, very close with my family, so it was important for me to, be 45 minutes to an hour up the road from, literally my entire family. I was 7 hours away. My grandmother's health started to decline, so I knew I wanted to get closer to home. It's just very fortunate that this job opened up and they gave me the opportunity to take over. But, you know, coming in, the players that I inherited, hands down, great people. Sometimes they're too nice. But, you know, I can't imagine what they were feeling at the time because I was their third coach in 3 years. So that is, I know, is very, very hard. So I try to take that into consideration. But like I said earlier, like, you have to start off the court before you're going to get any respect on the court. So when I came in, we weren't able to do any type of practicing in the spring or whatever. So it gave me the opportunity to sit down and meet with them one-on-one, get to know them, what was important to them, where they were, you know, within their academics. So I think just starting the process out like that actually benefited me in kind of stepping into the role instead of just coming in and immediately getting on the court with them. So I think I built that trust early on off the court, and I think that trust relayed over onto the court. But I will say collectively, you know, in my third year, the two teams that I had my first year and last year, hands down the best group of people that I've had. I've never had to deal with anything off the court. You know, they do what's expected in the classroom, on the court. They're very well known out in the community. So they are doing literally everything to bring awareness to our program in a positive way. And academically, like, our overall team GPA has increased every semester that I've been here. So I always stress academics before anything. So I think, again, especially with females, if you let them know that, you know, things outside of basketball are very important to you, then they're going to trust you and let you in a little bit more. And, you know, in return, it's going to only help with the success on the court. But the transition was great. Kendall Rainey, the athletic director, very, very helpful with the transition. Anything I needed, she, you know, walked me through the process. Because, you know, every system is different at every school. Even if it's a, you know, Concord State School to Shepherd State School, everything was so different. And then coming to a Virginia school, I'm learning all new systems off the court. So, and then Kristen Sire, the volleyball coach, tremendous help. Anything I needed, her office is like 10 steps down the hallway. So her and Kendall both helped smooth the transition as far as off the court duties. So, you know, I'm very, very thankful for them, and lucky enough that they're both still filling the roles that they are.
You bring your first Concord team, or your first UVa Wise team, your first UVa Wise team into Concord January 2009. You had been on the sidelines as a visitor during your time at Shepherd. But what was the feeling like, Jamie? I got to imagine it's kind of surreal. You look, you know, a few feet down the sideline, and there stands Coach Osborne. A great game played here inside the Carter Center in January 2019. But what was that feeling like ultimately?
It's mixed emotions for sure. You know, it's one of those things where Coach Oz, you know, was by my side, or I was by his side for so many years, and now, like, we're competing head to head. As an assistant, yeah, the competitiveness is still there, but, you know, I'm super competitive. I never wanted to lose to him, but he got the best of me a few times. But, you know, it's all fun and games, and it was just, you know, going back to Concord as a head coach, to see all those familiar faces in the stands, but still, like, welcome me with open arms. It was a great feeling, and like I said, kind of mixed emotions because, you know, Concord's always going to be a huge part of me. So going against them, knowing a lot of those players on that team just through, like, the recruiting trail and things. And like I said earlier, you always want to see success from your alma mater. So, yes, I want to beat them. So anytime we play them, that is one game I do not want to lose. But outside of that game, I want Concord to win every single game. So it was fun. I was hoping, you know, he'd get a couple technicals just so I could laugh at him. But, you know, he's I think calmed down a little bit in his age. But maybe that's due to Tesla too. Maybe she's able to, you know, rein him back a little bit. But It's always fun. And like Tesla, he's always a little sister to me. One of my biggest fans when I played at Concord. So to see her step into that role and be as successful as she's been, that's just even more emotion poured into that game. They're family to me, but we're always going to compete no matter what.
Last November, you guys do come in here to Concord. You guys get a win, a very close contested game. You guys made a couple of runs there down the stretch to, I think, I should have looked this up. I think it was a 3 or 4 point win for you guys here at Concord. What was that feeling like? Obviously, you said you want Concord to have a lot of success, but to get a win over Concord as a head coach, I'm sure had to feel pretty special.
Oh, absolutely. It's always fun to win in the Carter Center. No matter what side you're on, because of just the way the gym is. It's loud in there. Always a lot of fan support. In the stands, and it's just a great atmosphere. They have a student section that likes to heckle, whether I'm with Shepherd, I'm with Concord, or I'm with Wise. It doesn't matter. Like, they're going to be heckling someone. So it's always just a great atmosphere. Honestly, even when I played there, I was home court, but definitely my favorite place to play. And being on the other side and being an opponent, the Carter Center is always still one of my favorite places to go back to, just because of the game day environment.
You watched Coach Osborne build a program while you were a player here at Concord. You were right in the middle of it. You watched from afar him and Tesla build it back up to back-to-back 20-win seasons. You're trying to build a program at UVa Wise. You guys had a phenomenal season in your first year and your last year in the Mountain East, like a plus 10 or 12 win differential from the previous season. But Jamie, what's your blueprint to build a program at Wise, and how does that kind of maybe compare to what Coach Osborne's trying to do here at Concord?
Very similar, because like I said, our style of play is very similar. But transitioning into the South Atlantic Conference, the style of play in that conference is a little bit different than the Mountain East. So blueprint kind of changes a little bit when it comes to recruiting. But like I said earlier, I still go head-to-head with Concord a lot with recruits. But, I would say the Mountain East Conference is more of like a finesse type of league compared to a very, very physical league in the South Atlantic Conference. A lot of teams will play 2 traditional posts with 3 guards, and I thought early on that I would have to change my system and play 2 posts, 3 guards, but that's not the way I like to play, so we're still going to go 4 guards, 1 post. Just have to be very smart about our matchups, but it all comes down to the people you bring into your program. So I feel like we do very extensive homework when it comes to recruiting. And we always tell the recruits, we're not only recruiting you, but we're recruiting your family, because, your family could be detrimental to our team and our program. So it's one of those things. We check Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, all the social media. And if you don't really fit into what we're trying to build, I don't care how good of a player you are, we're going to pass and go to the next player. But, that's something that Coach Oz always told me too, is, sometimes talent is going to be more of a headache than someone who's willing to work harder. So a lot of times, we're just looking for those blue-collar kids who is succeeding in the classroom and also comes from winning programs within the high school, because things have changed just like anything else. Sometimes I feel like, high school kids go to these tournaments just to play games, and they could care less if they win or lose. So sometimes it's hard to coach and teach people to want to win. So, if they come from programs that have been successful, then that's kind of already instilled in them. So, we look at multiple factors, but, your program is who you bring in. So our offense and defense will change according to our personnel, but like I said, our recruits are the true blueprint of our program. So
some bad luck with injuries last year for the Cavaliers, Jamie. Just one right after the other. It was like a domino effect, but you guys get a nice win in your proverbial cap there, a feather in your proverbial cap. You guys beat nationally ranked Catawba despite all the injuries. I know the South Atlantic Conference is going to try to play games coming up here, I guess, in just a little over a month, so we'll get you out of here on this one. Just kind of give us a snapshot of the 2020-21 Cavaliers of Wise, if you could.
Well, hopefully, like I said, we can avoid all those injuries. Our team has proven that we can be resilient no matter what's thrown at us, and I expect no different this year. With COVID and different protocols put in place, our kids have, abided by those. I've never once had to, remind them to wear a mask or get their temperatures taken or this, that, and the other. So they're very, very coachable. We're just looking to hopefully stay healthy and build on where we left off last year, but just with a full roster this year. It's exciting, and I reminded our girls this morning at practice that we are very, very fortunate that we are beginning official practice in a few days, but that we get to play in November. There are a lot of programs throughout the country that are having to wait to January still with things up in the air. So we do not need to take advantage of a single opportunity. So we kind of approach every single day as if a new day, but very, very fortunate that we are in the position that we are in. Because I know like the Mountain East there at Concord, you guys are pushed back to second semester, and there's rumor going around that those games are going to be cut even more, and as of now we are scheduled to play 22 games. So again, we're very fortunate right now.
Yeah, it's not going to happen this year, but I'm sure it'll happen down the road that we'll get to see your Cavaliers against the Mountain Lions here, whether it be in Athens or down there in southwestern Virginia. But Jamie, we can't thank you enough for spending some time with us here today, and we will obviously be watching the success of your Cavaliers not only this season but down the road.
All right, thank you so much.
Once again, Jamie Cluesman on the 6th episode of Concord University Athletic Alumni at Work.